Good afternoon, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Hussein Al-Mahmoudi, CEO of the Sharjah Research and Technology Park. It's a great honor and pleasure to have with us His Excellency, Mr. Badr Jafar. I would like, on behalf of the Sharjah Research and Technology Park and your behalf, to thank you, Your Excellency, for your time and your busy schedule and giving us this opportunity to basically talk about very important topics. To start, Your Excellency, I would like to introduce you to the audience. His Excellency, Mr. Badr Jafar, is a prominent UAE business leader and social entrepreneur, serving as the CEO of Crescent Enterprise and the president of Crescent Petroleum. He also serves as the Special Envoy of the UAE Minister of Foreign Affairs for Business and Philanthropy, and was COP28 Special Representative for Business and Philanthropy. He is an internationally recognized for advancing strategic philanthropy and responsible business leadership, supporting innovation, education, entrepreneurship, and sustainable development initiative across the region and globally. Mr. Badr, welcome.
Shukran, Abu Muhammad. Thank you for having me. A great honor and pleasure to join you.
Thank you very much. The topic of philanthropy is a great topic, and it's a very timely, because here in the Middle East and across the Islamic world, we are celebrating the month of Ramadan, the month of giving, and the month of kindness. I would like to go straight to our questions, since our time is very limited. Your Excellency, you have written a great book on philanthropy, The Business of Philanthropy. What drove you to write it, and what is at the heart of it?
Assalamu alaikum awal shay طبعا to all. And again, thank you, Abu Muhammad, for this invitation. It's really a pleasure to be part of the conversation, and particularly fitting, I think, that we're having it with Spark, because so much of what I believe about the future of philanthropy connects directly to the work that you, Muhammad, are building in Spark, and of course in Sharjah, and from the UAE around research and innovation. So the book that you mentioned came out of a simple, I think, but persistent observation that philanthropy is entering a defining new era. And we're not just talking about it, I think we're not talking about it with the serious and sophistication that it deserves. Consider the scale of what's happening. We're in the middle of one of the largest wealth transfers in human history. Estimates suggest up to $90 trillion will pass to the next generation globally over the coming couple of decades. In the Middle East alone, over $1 trillion is expected to shift in the coming years. And that's not just a financial event. It's a generational turning point in many respects. The next generation of wealth holders are asking fundamentally different questions, not just how much should I give, but what kind of change do I want to create? I think they're thinking about systems, about root causes, about measurable outcomes. They want their giving to be as rigorous as their investing. So the book, which grew from in-depth conversations with about 100 or so leaders across philanthropy, business, and social enterprise, was written as an invitation to move from philanthropy as generosity, which of course is deeply or already deeply rooted in our cultures and our faith, to philanthropy as a discipline with strategy, with accountability, with the ambition to fund research, to drive innovation, to strengthen institutions, and work alongside governments and businesses to tackle challenges at their roots. Because at its best, philanthropy doesn't just respond to crises, it helps shape the systems that prevent them. And that shift from reactive to generative is, I think, what the book is really about.
Thank you. I think Your Excellency, the whole concept of philanthropy, and maybe combined with CSR, shifted from CSR to more typical social investment, and people also talk about philanthropy. So there was a revolution there. How is the role of philanthropy evolving globally, Your Excellency, from charity toward long-term investment in system, science, and innovation, in your opinion?
Yeah, look, I don't think it's a move away from charity. It's an expansion of ambition. Look, direct aid will always be essential when there's a disaster, when people are hungry, when communities are displaced. That impulse to respond is non-negotiable. But the most thoughtful, I think, philanthropic institutions today are also asking a second and sometimes harder question. How do we reduce the need for that aid over time? And I think when you sit with that question seriously, you inevitably arrive at a systems thinking, at science, and of course at innovation. I think the numbers help frame the opportunity. Philanthropy is the philanthropic capital, I should say, flows more than $1 trillion annually, which is more than 3 times the combined humanitarian and development aid, and more than 10 times the climate finance flowing from developed economies to developing economies in recent years. But when capital reaches that kind of scale, the strategic question becomes unavoidable. Are we only responding to crises, or are we also investing in preventing them? And I think history gives us the answer. Some of the most transformative breakthroughs, Muhammad, were made possible because philanthropic capital went where no other capital would go. For example, and there are many, of course, but I'll mention a couple. In the 1940s, the Rockefeller Foundation funded a young agricultural scientist. His name was Norman Borlaug, who developed high-yield wheat varieties in Mexico. And that initial grant, which was modest by any standard, eventually sparked what we now call the Green Revolution, which is credited with saving billions of lives, billions of people from starvation. No government program, no commercial investor was willing to take that bet at that time. Philanthropy was, which is why I often describe philanthropy as the glue that binds political will and business innovation and capital. Governments have the mandate, of course, to act, but sometimes lack agility in some parts of the world. Businesses have the agility and the talent, but needs sometimes a commercial case, right, to invest. Philanthropy can bridge that gap. It can take the risk, provide the concept, build the evidence base, and create the conditions for others to follow at scale. And I think when that glue holds, the multiplier effect is extraordinary.
Thank you, Professor. I think moving or shifting this topic a little bit more to our region, what trend are you seeing in philanthropy across the Middle East region and North Africa, specifically, Your Excellency, if we can focus on our region?
Yeah, look, this is, I think, a fascinating moment for the region, and I'd argue it's perhaps underappreciated globally. Giving has always been, as you know, Muhammad, part of our DNA. Zakat, sadaqah, waqf, community-based initiatives. These aren't recent inventions. They are centuries-old practices, and they're deeply embedded in our faith and, of course, our culture. And at scale, the numbers are, I think, remarkable. People don't realize it. Islamic giving alone is estimated at $400 billion to $1 trillion annually. Private giving in the Gulf is around $210 billion a year. And to put that in perspective, that's larger than the GDP of most countries. So the foundation is there. It always has been. What's changing is not the spirit of giving. That remains extraordinary. It's the infrastructure and the intentionality around it. You're seeing capital flow increasingly towards education, healthcare, technology, areas with long-term systemic impact rather than purely short-term relief. And the way that it's being deployed is evolving rapidly. More rigorous measurement frameworks, more cross-sector partnerships also, more evidence-based approaches. donors and foundations are asking not just can we help, but can we prove it? Yani can we scale it? Can we sustain it? Obviously, very importantly. The UAE, I think, has been particularly effective in catalyzing this shift. This country has consistently built platforms that bring sectors together. World-class infrastructure, forward-thinking policy frameworks, extraordinary convening power. Think of what the UAE has done in humanitarian aid with the International Humanitarian City, for example, or in renewable energy with things like IRENA and Masdar, and of course AUS and Spark. That same mindset is now shaping how philanthropy operates in the region. More collaborative, more transparent, more aligned with national and regional priorities. And there's a cultural also dimension that's important to mention, and I think that's genuinely exciting. In many parts of the world, philanthropy innovation is still treated as separate conversations. And I think in the UAE and the wider region, we have a real opportunity to integrate them because the tradition of giving is so strong and the appetite for innovation is so high. We're moving from philanthropy as tradition to philanthropy as long-term capability. And that I think is a powerful shift.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, is there a global model where philanthropy help build world-class innovation cluster? Because we are very curious, here at Sharjah Research and Technology Park, being an innovation ecosystem, to basically, explore the connection between philanthropy and innovation. So is there a global model where philanthropy helped build world-class innovation cluster? And what can entities like Spark or other technology parks across the region of the world learn from these?
Look, innovation changes the scale of what's possible, right? And the evidence for this is overwhelming. Take polio, for example. In the 1940s and 50s, it was crippling or killing 500,000 people every year. I think it was called the March of Dimes, the philanthropic campaign driven by public donations that invested over, at the time, $200 million into the research that led to the vaccine in the 1950s. Today, polio has been virtually eradicated. And that wasn't achieved by treating patients one at a time. It was achieved by funding the science that made prevention possible at a global scale. We'll consider a more recent example, the mRNA technology behind some of the COVID-19 vaccines that saved millions of lives, I believe. And that was built on decades of research by scientists like Catalin Carico, who struggled for years to secure funding because the work was considered too risky and too speculative. Her initial papers were rejected by leading journals. She was actually demoted by her university for lack of grants. But philanthropic and early stage research kept funding her work alive for long enough for it to mature. And when the pandemic hit, the foundational science was ready, and within months, it delivered vaccines at the speed that the world had never seen. And guess what? Carico went on to win the Nobel Prize. But these aren't isolated stories. They illustrate a consistent pattern. Philanthropic capital is uniquely suited to fund the early stage, right? The unproven, the long horizon work that other capital won't touch. It's patient. It doesn't need quarterly returns. It's flexible. It can go where market signals haven't yet arrived. And I think it's risk tolerant. It can back ideas when outcomes are still deeply uncertain. And here's the multiplier. When philanthropic capital goes in first, it de-risks the space and unlocks follow-on investment from government and the private sector. And often it generates significant multiples of the original commitment. So it's not about choosing between aid and innovation. It's about complementing the immediate response with long-term investments that address root causes and build systems that endure.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, we are here now in Sharjah, a city known for its leadership and visionary leadership and embedding sustainable development and balancing social, technology, environmental, and economic growth hand in hand. In developing cities, how do you see entities like Sparks, like Technology Park, research institution, position itself as a region, let's say, preferred destinations for global philanthropical capital looking to invest in innovation?
Look, if you study the most successful innovation systems in the world, uh, I think philanthropy is almost always in the early chapters of these stories. It funded the research capacity, the talent development, the early experimentation, the foundational layer that others couldn't yet justify investing in because the commercial returns were too distant or too uncertain. University endowments, research grants, fellowship programs, seed funding for labs that hadn't yet produced a single paper. But over time, those early philanthropic bets attracted government support and private capital, and entire ecosystems formed around them. And this pattern continues today. Just to give another example, the CEPI for the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness was launched in Davos, I think almost 10 years ago as a partnership between government, philanthropy, and the private sector. And that philanthropic foundations like Wellcome Trust and Gates Foundation, which provided the catalytic early funding. And guess what? When COVID-19 struck, CEPI was already positioned to accelerate development and vaccine development at extraordinary speed. And that's a very real, I think, recent example of what happens when philanthropic capital builds the infrastructure before the crisis hits. So the lesson, I think, is quite clear. Innovation doesn't happen in isolation. It happens where talent, ideas, and of course, capital converge, and where there is a deliberate, sustained effort to connect them. For Spark, look, the opportunity is to build that convergence intentionally from day one. Sharjah, thanks to the vision of its ruler, His Highness Sheikh Sultan bin Mohammed Al Qasimi, has real strength to build on. Obviously, a deep institutional commitment to knowledge and culture, a growing research base, and a strategic geographic position across major global markets. With that alignment designed well, I think with the right governance, the right openness to global partnerships, and of course the right balance of patience and ambition, Spark, I think, can dramatically compress that journey from idea to impact. And I have no doubt that this is happening under the leadership of Her Highness Sheikh Badr bin Sultan Al Qasimi. What I think took other ecosystems 30 or 40 years to build, I think the well-designed platform in the right environment like Spark in Sharjah can achieve much faster.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Maybe this is our final question, but how can you touched on part of it, but how can philanthropic institutions and innovation parks in general, like Spark, work together to deliver both societal and economic returns?
Look, this is where I think it all comes together, right? It's really at the heart of everything that we've been discussing so far. Innovation parks provide the infrastructure, the physical space, the regulatory environment, the institutional backbone. Philanthropy can provide the catalytic capital, and when those two combine well, you create a powerful cycle where societal returns and economic returns reinforce each other rather than compete. In practice, philanthropy can play, I think, several distinct roles within an innovation park like Spark. It can fund early stage research translation, taking discoveries from the lab and helping them cross the so-called valley of death to reach the communities that need them. It can build talent pipelines, scholarships, fellowships, training programs that ensure that capital keeps pace with the infrastructure. It can back innovation-driven issues and tackling matters that matter most and solving them. And I think it can also serve as patient catalytic capital that tests and validates new solutions before they're ready for commercial scale. Every example that we've discussed today, from the Green Revolution to mRNA vaccines, follows the same pattern. Philanthropic capital, when going in first, can prove the concept, build the evidence, and then unlock vastly larger flows of public and private investment. And that is the model that Spark can institutionalize. So again, the ultimate goal isn't just to fund individual projects, right? As valuable as that is, it's to build ecosystems, living, evolving environments where ideas can grow, where partnerships form across disciplines and borders, and where innovation consistently translates into real-world impact. And that's precisely why platforms like Spark matter so much. They offer things like including philanthropy, a space to evolve, from supporting one-off initiatives to shaping the very systems that make innovation possible. And if we get it right, impact won't just be local to Sharjah or the UAE. It will resonate across the region and I believe well beyond. So, but Mohammed, thank you again for the conversation, and more importantly, thank you really and your team at Spark for what you're building. I think the opportunity here is truly immense.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And I think maybe I would like to end this maybe with a message. We have in our audience people from academia, we have people from business community, from government. What is your last message to everyone when it comes to this topic?
But Mohammed, it's really, I think, a message that resonates so much in what the UAE's DNA is, which is about partnership. It's about connections. It's about building bridges. It's about the whole of society approach. It's about bringing everybody together with their own strengths to help to build that multiplier effect. That's what we're doing, and that's what I think platforms like Spark are fundamentally doing. And that's my message. It's always find opportunity to collaborate and partner with others. Yes, sometimes it's tempting to stay in your own lane because it's natural. It's human nature to want to be in control of your own output. But in reality, when you see the magic of collaboration, again, generating and creating that multiplier effect, it becomes addictive. So that's something that I think that's a message that I would leave, which is embrace collaboration for the multiplier effect that it can bring, and enjoy it while you do it. It's about ultimately connecting not just themes and facts and institutions, about connecting people across geographies, across different sectors, across societies. This is ultimately what creates resilience in everything that we do. And again, it's something that I see really at the core of what the UAE represents, and of course, what institutions like Spark represent.
Your Excellency, thank you very much for this last message, and we really enjoyed our conversation. Really, on behalf of everyone, I'd like to thank you for your time. This has been a pleasure to really learn about philanthropy and how this topic evolved over time, and basically how we could leverage this. Again, thank you very much on behalf of everyone. And I also would like to thank everyone who participated. Our time is very short, so I apologize for not taking questions, but we are here to answer any questions. You can text us and we can try and address these questions. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Shukran, Abu Muhammad. Thank you again for all the work you do. And I didn't say at the start, but Ramadan Kareem to everybody. وكل عام وأنتم بألف خير.
شكرا. كل عام وأنتم بخير.
شكرا. بإمان الله.
Thank you, ladies and
gentlemen.
Thank you.